All right, Jang here, back in the workshop, URC forums, ultimaterc.com, all that good stuff. Back here with my Traxxas E-Maxx that I've been bringing back to life. Last video that I put up was me driving this thing for the first time in a year after putting on some durability upgrades. Still running the stock brushed Titan motors, stock ESC, stock shocks, stock springs, stock shock oil, pretty much stock setup except for some different tires. And I had previously during the review process moved the shocks out on the A-arms to reduce the droop and stiffen up their effective rates. And had a pretty successful test. No surprises there. It's not handling anything like what it will when I'm done with it, but I'm happy with the results because, for one thing, I had a lot more crashes than were shown in the short video, the edited video that I put up, and everything held together just fine. I got a little bit of bend in the eighth inch aluminum front skid from hard hits directly onto the hard ground at top speed from a big jump, and seems like no damage. So thus far the durability upgrades are working. We'll see how long that lasts, but I'm hoping that it'll all last quite a while. Still way down on speed naturally, brushed motors, old school, and like I said, just found it to be a successful test because I learned what I needed to learn, which was just that indeed the shocks need to be stiffened up. Because at first when I went out there, I had the ride height down a little bit lower, just almost as low as it would go with the stock shocks, and it was slapping the ground. It was hitting the ground too much because, again, stock oil, stock springs, just too soft. It would hit the ground and that would upset the whole thing. So to remedy that, I just raised the ride height all the way around by adding about a 1/4 inch of preload. Well, no, not even that much. Looks like about a 1/4 inch to the rear and less than that to the front is how much that I added, and that made a dramatic difference. I was able to get around the track just fine without bottoming out, or with minimal bottoming out at least. So now I'm ready to move on to the next stages and actually start getting this thing from being nearly box stock, factory basher, slow, all that stuff, and actually get it to start performing well on a track, which it is not doing right now, but it will be doing soon. I need to make some adjustments to the shocks. I'm going to change out the oil, I'm going to change out some of the springs, and that'll be done mostly by feel at first. And because I'm going to be doing it by feel, that's what I always do. I don't go by recommended settings or anything. I'm going to change the weight of the vehicle, which is going to change how the shocks need to be set up. And in doing that, I'm going to be changing out the motor and the ESC. I'm going to put a El Cheapo brushless system in there. And this is a Hobby Wing. This is an 80 amp ready to run ESC. Cheap, but will definitely do the job. And then this is a G-Force motor, 2200 kV. This is I believe this is a 41 by 68 millimeter unit right here. And this is from valuehobby.com. I haven't visited their site in quite a while. I don't know what their current stock is, but the last time that I looked, quite some months ago, they had a combo kind of like this with equivalent stuff in it for $100 to upgrade to 8th scale proper brushless motor power for your monster truck. I think that's pretty cool. All right then, here we go. Off with the motors. All right, nice and lightweight. All right, this motor is using a larger size of plug than the ESC had. The ESC was using your standard 4mm size. This is like a 5mm size, it seems. It's not the bigger 6mm. It seems like the 5. So I'm going to take the female connectors that they included with the motor, and I'm just going to make some adapters so that I can continue to run these normal 4mm plugs, the female plugs, off the ESC. I've pretty much standardized across the board on that size for most of my motor needs. So I'll just make an adapter so I don't have to change these out and then change them again once I want to use this ESC for a different vehicle. Now, the single most electrically efficient possible connection, this will not be. And that doesn't faze me the slightest bit. It doesn't even begin to faze me because I've run way more power than this through 4mm connectors by themselves. And this is not going to be a super high powered application here with E-Maxx running lipos and running a 68mm can on an 80 amp ESC. It's just, they're going to be fine. It's not going to be an issue. And I don't know what way that these wires will end up needing to be hooked up, but I'm just going to do it exactly backwards because it happens to be convenient for me right now. I'll probably change that later. Now, what really sucks here is that the largest pinion gear that I have on hand is a 17 tooth. I really need something bigger than that for this 2200 kV motor. But I just don't have anything bigger, so I have no choice right now but to use what I have, and it's going to be slow on the top end, front straight. On the track, it's just going to suck, but everywhere else, it'll be pretty darn peppy. And I'm just gonna have to order up some new pinions. I will get pinions from 19 up to 25 from RRP. All right, and when I order the pinions, I'm also gonna order the single motor mount, because for now I'm just gonna put some electrical tape over the back of the space where the second motor was, but I'll get that single motor mount, which should just clean things up. But this is what I have for now, so like I said, this is what I'm going to use for now. Get this ESC plugged in, put some half-dead batteries in there, and just get it calibrated. Had a little bit of drag brake set on the ESC. I turned that all the way off because this motor has a lot of just natural magnetic braking to it. Still more than I would like, but it's better than it was. Now I am set up with the weight and the general weight distribution that I'm going to have, weight balance I'm going to have on this thing. I'll set these to where they will naturally sit, get a couple of foam pads back in there, and now I'll be able to set up the suspension how I want it. I'm starting with the old half and half setup with half stock springs, half low-C blue springs. No, still doesn't quite do it for me. Not stiff enough for what I want. I'm going to do the shock oil last because I'm trying to get the feel for the spring rate first, and then once I get that right, then I will adjust the shock oil by the amount that is appropriate for where the spring rate has gone. Okay, that's much better, more racy. I can feel that the shock oil probably needs to go up, I'm gonna say about 15 weight from where it is right now. I don't want to go too stiff on it. A lot of folks just go straight to crazy thick stuff in place of changing your springs. They do two completely different things and they need to be balanced. All done. I went with 50 weight. I had more 50 weight oil than 45. Actually running kind of low on 45. Time for me to do another shock oil run. But in the meantime, here we go. Rears, fronts, preloads already set. These should be good to go. Screw them on, and there we are. I already have a video that I published quite some time ago called something like how to change oil in Traxxas shock. So that's why I skipped through that process and didn't show it again here, because I just went through that exact same process 8 times. And the only exception was that I put the STRC caps on, and that's it. All right, center of gravity looks like it's right under here. Right under here. Oh, there we go. What I just did was I put these battery straps under the tires. I put something under the tires because the track width of a vehicle changes as it goes through the suspension range of motion. So your tires actually become springs at that point as they are pulled inward and pushed outward, and they will actually limit your range of motion. They will change your suspension action artificially. So you need to have a little bit of ability for your tires to skid across the ground a little bit in order to actually see what your suspension action will be like when the vehicle is traveling. That takes care of this round of updates. I mean, I'm just going to clean up some stuff, get some tape under there, and maybe stick some foam spacers into the battery trays to work with the lipos, put my electrical tape over the front here, and then call it a day. And then I'm going to actually go run this thing the next time that I have an opportunity to, and just see how it does. Now, like I said, I know that it's going to be under geared, but I will be able to still test out the handling characteristics, which should be very different now. And with any luck, I might actually be able to lower this thing down to the ground a little bit more. I'm hopeful that I can do that, but I want to see how it actually behaves on the track first. It's feeling good to me. I'm actually going to take, I've got one of those little 1/16 inch spacers on the front, on all these shocks on the front. I'm going to take those out and run just a little bit less preload in the front than I was originally planning on, because everything is looking, with the shocks rebuilt, everything running a little bit freer in there. Things are looking just a little bit higher than I expected. Oh, another thing I'll do is give all the joints, all the moving joints, a shot of mousse slick to keep the squeaks away and keep those joints moving freely, so that my hinge pins and pillow balls and all that kind of stuff that's moving, shock ends, the eyelets themselves, will not be acting as friction dampers, you know, because that does not help at all. It makes for a bouncy ride. So there we go. That's it for this one. A long one this time. Didn't really accomplish all that much, but it's going to completely change what this vehicle looks like on the track. That I guarantee. Will this be it? Is this it for the setup for this thing, for a more track-worthy setup? Probably not. You know, you've always got to go back and forth and actually test. You can't just put on a setup and know that it'll work. Even if you pick up the best setup in the world from a world championship driver, which of course there is no such thing for an E-Maxx, but on vehicles where you can, still those setups are set up for a specific track. And even if you're on that same track, you're not that world championship driver. And even if you're a very good driver, you're still not going to drive exactly the same as that person does. So you may still need to make more changes, and even as your driving style changes to adapt to a setup, you may need to then change the setup again to adapt to the adaptation. So it's always an iterative process. This is my best stab at it for this next test, and we'll see how it does. All right, thanks for following along, and I'll talk to you next time.